Hello everyone. Hope you all are good and I hope that you have been watching all the lectures regularly and thoroughly. In today's lecture we are going to continue with the same chapter, which is first chapter from part 2, accounting for share capital. So far we have had 10 lectures about it. Today is the 11th lecture for the same chapter. And in today's lecture, we are going to revise all the 10 lectures that we have completed till date. We'll have an overview about each and every topic that we have discussed till date. So, firstly, talking about the weightage of this chapter, it is of total 10 marks, of which one is MCQ, one VSQ, and a long question of 8 marks. So the total weightage of this chapter is 10 marks. Yes? Alright. So if you are talking about a long question here, then while learning chapter 5 and chapter 6 from part 1, I mentioned that there will be a long question from those chapters even. So a long question of 8 marks from chapter 5, again from chapter 6, these two are from part 1, and a long question of 8 marks from part 2 and the first chapter, ongoing chapter, the chapter that we are doing right now, and the weightage that we have discussed. A long question of 8 marks. Okay, so starting from the beginning, everything that we have discussed till date for this chapter, we are going to revise it today. Starting with the word share and then company. Further, types of share capital. These two words, share and a company, these two words are closely related to each other. A company will issue shares for collection of capital. For raising capital, sorry, not collection of capital, raising capital is the right word here. So, by issue of share, a company raises its capital. What is a capital? You know that very well. Yes? So, the shares are issued by the company for raising capital. And we have discussed about the types of share capital too. If you are talking about the types of share capital, the very first type is authorized capital. What does an authorized capital mean? Authorized capital simply means that the authority a company has to raise the capital by issue of shares. Further, it is issued capital. Issued capital is the number of shares a company has issued out of the authority that the company has. Yes? Further, there are many types. We have discussed this in detail. Also, we have discussed about the first 2 points in the previous lectures. That is, what is a share and what is a company and how are these two related. And then we have had discussion about types of share capital. I have explained this very well in detail with examples. Yes, with proper examples I have given this. I mean, I have explained this in previous lectures. Yes. So then, if we are talking about the types of share, it is equity share and preference share. Now, the only difference between these two is that the preference shareholders are having preferential right towards the share. That means the amount of preference share, the return given on preference share is at first. That means the preference shares are given priority in terms of return, and then comes the turn of equity shares. Yes, equity shareholders are actually the owners of the company, you can say. types of share capital, we have already discussed this: authorized capital, issued capital, subscribed capital, called up capital, etc., etc., which ends with reserve capital. Yeah, you can go through this topic. It is given in your textbook. Yes. Then procedure for issue of shares. Now, what is the procedure for issue of shares? As I said, the share is issued for raising capital. Now, the amount to be called up for a share is in installments. You know this well if you have studied previous lectures. It is application, allotment, first call, and final call. Yes. So the amount of share is collected in installments. In the very beginning, when the company will issue shares, people are going to apply for it. Then the company will allot them. Yes, and in installments, the company will collect the amount of share. Yes, if you remember, we have also solved several illustrations about this topic. Yes, application, allotment, first call, final call. Yes, so next, yes, as I said, firstly, people are going to apply for the shares, then the company will allot them. Yes, then comes the step of allotment, first call, second call, or final call. We have discussed about journal entries, the most important topic of all. Yes, so let us revise this. This is extremely important. Journal entries are given in your textbook. So you may please keep your textbook with you and please open up the page for journal entries. You already know this by now because I have mentioned page number in the previous lectures even. And this is the very first, very first chapter. So it is easy to find out. Okay, so we are going to revise all the journal entries. And as I said, all the sums, the long sums that you are supposed to, about which we have discussed in weightage are all based on these journal entries, the one that we are going to revise right now. Yes. So, starting with the first journal entry, it is related to this topic. It is about application. So, how is the process? Company has issued shares. Yes, people are going to apply for that. That means they are going to pay application money. Say for example, the face value or nominal value of the share is rupees 10. Yes. With application, the company has called up rupees 2 or 3. Then with allotment, then first call and then final call. Yes, this way the company is going to collect 10 rupees. Yeah. So application, allotment, first call, final call, there are 2 journal entries for each. And the number of journal entries will increase if there are minor variations given in your sum. So at the first stage, when people apply for the shares of the company receives application money. So the very first journal entry, when application money is received. Yes, if you are having your textbook, you can pay attention in that. When application money is received, it is bank account debit to share application account. Here you can write equity share application, you can write preference share application. It depends on the given question. If they have mentioned the type of share, you will write down the same. And if not, you will simply write down share application. If it is equity share, you are going to write down equity share application. If it is preference share, you will write down preference share application. Yeah? So the first journal entry, when application money is received, bank account debit to share application account. We are in the first step. Now the amount received for application is what? It is share application money. So share application money needs to be transferred to share capital account. Yes? So the second journal entry is about transfer of application money. But before that, there is an additional journal entry given in your textbook. So in case if you are getting confused, let me clarify it. That journal entry is given for the case of oversubscription of shares. Yes, I'll come to that point later. For now, let us continue with the journal entry that I was explaining, which is journal entry number 3 in your textbook. Yeah. So the share application money has been transferred to share capital account. Yes, because whenever the capital is raised by issue of shares, it is share capital. So the amount received for share application is to be transferred to share capital account, and the journal entry for which is share application account debit to share capital account. If it is equity share, then equity share capital account. If it is preference share, then preference share capital account. All right? Okay. Then the step is about allotment. We have discussed about application, that people are going to apply for the shares and the company will allot them shares. And the amount on share application is to be transferred to share capital account. Then allotment money becomes due. What does this mean? That the company will call up the amount for allotment. It becomes due. That means the shareholders now are supposed to pay the amount of allotment. So the journal entry when allotment money becomes due is share allotment account debit to share capital account. Yes? Then when allotment money is received, of course, if it becomes due, it is to be received. Yes? So when allotment money is received, bank account debit to share allotment account. Yes? Then comes first call. When first call money becomes due, share first call account debit to share capital account. Yes? Then when first call money is received, of course, if first call becomes due, then first call is to be received next. So when first call money is received, bank account debit to share first call account. Just the way amount of allotment was received is the way amount of first call becomes due and amount of first call is received. Similarly, second call or final call becomes due and is received. You just need to replace the word first call with second call or final call. Depends on the given question. Yes? And then second call or final call is received. So the journal entry almost remains same. You just have to replace allotment with first call, then first call with second call, or final call. Yes, I hope by now you have at least memorized all the journal entries. Yes, because we have done many topics ahead. Fine. So now talking about the second journal entry given at the stage of application in your textbook is about oversubscription of shares. Yes, we are supposed to talk about that. Sorry, yes. At the stage of application, you have additional journal entry. The second journal entry in your textbook, it says share application account debit to bank account. This journal entry is completely opposite to the first journal entry, isn't it? So first journal entry is about when application money is received. Second journal entry is about when the shares are rejected, when the applications are rejected, sorry. I repeat, when applications are rejected, not shares, it was just by mistake. So when application money is received and shares are allotted, journal entry is bank account debit to share application. But if the applications are rejected and the amount is to be returned, refunded, then the journal entry is reverse, which is share application account debit to bank account. Yes? Let us consider a practical example for this. Say for example, the company has issued 80,000 shares and the applications are received for 1 lakh shares. So the excess 20,000 shares are to be rejected. That means the company is not going to accept those applications. The company will keep only 80,000. Remaining 20, the company will reject and the amount will be refunded by company. So for those 20,000 shares, the second journal entry is given. Yes? Alright, then we are done with the concept of journal entries. These are the basic journal entries that we have understood almost in the second or third lecture maybe and are extremely important. Entire chapter is based on these journal entries, so you should revise these journal entries every day, at least once. Yeah? Okay, so let us see which is the next topic. Alright, we have a topic here, methods for issue of shares. Alright, we have understood about the procedure for issue of shares. We have also understood about the journal entries. And now we are talking about methods for issue of shares. Of course, this is not a new topic. We have learned all the topics in detail in the previous lectures. But we are just revising this. Okay, so there are 3 methods, of which the first is at par, second is at premium, then at discount. Methods for issue of shares at par, premium, discount. At discount, this is not in your syllabus, so we are going to understand the first 2 methods only. Okay, at par. Let us begin with this. When a company will issue its shares at a face value or nominal value, then simply it is said that the shares have been issued at par. Yes? If the company will issue a share of rupees 10 for rupees 10 itself, it is said to be share issued at par. Simply, when the company will issue shares at its face value or nominal value, it is said to have shares issued at par. Alright? Then at premium, if a company will issue its shares for more than its face value, it is said to be issue of shares at premium. If a share of rupees 10 is issued for rupees 12, yes, so what is the face value of a share here? Rupees 10. What is the amount of premium? Rupees 2. So this is said to be issue of shares at premium. All right. Then at discount, this is not in your syllabus, so we are not going to discuss about this. And moving ahead, yes, calls in arrears. We have discussed this topic. Now, what is calls in arrears? We have also solved a sum in context with this topic. When a shareholder fails to pay the amount due on allotment or first call or a final call, it is said as calls in arrears. Say, for example, a person has paid application money, I mean the shareholder, then allotment, and then first call, but did not pay second call. So the amount which is unpaid by the shareholder is transferred to calls in arrears account. Yes? So simply speaking, calls in arrears is the unpaid amount by the shareholders, which is due on allotment, first and final call. You cannot say or you cannot expect to have calls in arrears at the stage of application. Hope you have that common sense. If a person will not pay application money, how do you expect a person will become a shareholder? So calls in arrears appears at the stage of allotment, first call and final call. So moving ahead, calls in advance. Now this is reverse to calls in arrears. What is calls in arrears? That the shareholder will not pay the amount which is due. Now here the case is that the shareholder will pay an amount in advance. That means if the amount of allotment becomes due, the shareholder will pay the amount of first and final call along with allotment. So this is the payment in advance. So it is said as calls in advance. Next and the last topic for the purpose of revision is forfeiture of shares. This is related to the topic of calls in arrears. Whenever a shareholder fails to pay the amount due on allotment, first call or final call, it is said to it is said to be calls in arrears. Yes. Then sometimes what happens, the shareholder will pay the amount of arrears later. But if he fails to pay permanently, then the company will forfeit his shares. That means he will be no longer a shareholder of the company. His shares will be forfeited. Yes? So we have understood the journal entry for the same topic. There are two journal entries given, of which we have understood one journal entry on the same basis we have solved a sum, illustration 9. From that first sum we have solved a short sum. Yes. So whenever the forfeiture of shares takes place, the very first thing to be done is equity share capital account is debited. Yes, let us revise the journal entry for this. It says equity share capital account debit. And what is to be debited? Number of shares forfeited into amount called up. Yes. Now what is amount called up? If a share is of rupees 10 and if the company has called up 6 rupees or 8 rupees, yes, then you will write down that amount over there. Yes. And number of shares forfeited, that means the shares which are forfeited by the company for non-payment of amount due from a shareholder. Then to forfeited shares account. In that you are going to write the amount which is paid by the shareholder. Yes, if the shareholder has paid the amount of application and allotment, then it is to be written to forfeited shares account. Further, if the shareholder fails to pay the amount of allotment, it is to be written to share allotment account. Further, if he fails to pay the amount of first call, it is to be written to share first call account or to share final call account. You can also write to calls in arrears account. Yes, this is the first journal entry out of two journal entries which are given in your textbook. I have explained this journal entry, and on this basis we have solved a sum. I mean the illustration. Yes, and the first sum from illustration 9. Yes, so you should revise them. And in next lecture, we are going to continue with the second journal entry. I mean, we are going to continue with this topic itself, forfeiture of shares. And we are going to understand the second journal entry, and we are going to solve the sums based on this. After solving sums based on first journal entry, we'll understand the second journal entry and we'll be solving the sums for same. Yes. So you should read this topic in detail in your textbook before we proceed with the next lecture. You should revise this lecture. I mean, you should revise all the previous lectures based on this lecture, and should also study the topics given in your textbook in detail. If you will read more and more, the understanding will be clear. Yes, and it's a request that you should not skip a single lecture because the chapter is all linked. Yes, so that's all for today, and let us see what is your homework. It is journal entries. All the journal entries that we have understood so far. Let it be the simple journal entries related to call in arrears, then about forfeiture of shares, anything. Yes, all the journal entries you have to write down once in your rough books, and you have to learn the same. Alright then, we'll see you all soon in the next lecture. Till then, stay home, stay safe, and study well.